That's what I am right now.
That was on camera.
Hello and welcome with Autosport to recap Saturday, first qualifying day of the season here at the Australian Grand Prix. Emily, we had quite a fun day of action, maybe not the biggest surprises at the top. Obviously, Lando Norris ahead of Oscar Piastri for our front row lockout with McLaren. But still some surprises, some rookies out, some rookies out didn't do that well. So what is your takeaway?
Yeah, look, it was a interesting first qualifying of the season. Some things like the McLarens at the top, not too surprising, but you mentioned the rookies. Who would have thought we'd see, Isack Hadjar as the best rookie today? But why don't we go through the grid, starting with, the McLarens at the top. What did they have to say in the press conference after qualifying?
Well, they were obviously the pre-race or pre-qualifying favourites, I want to say. So they delivered. Obviously, Lando Norris slightly quicker than Oscar Piastri, so no heroics here in front of the home crowd for Oscar. Just under a tenth behind. Everything kind of went as expected for them. In Oscar's case, he probably made too many mistakes earlier on in qualifying, and then didn't want to make the same mistake in Q3. So he probably left a little bit of lap time on the table, playing it safe.
Holding back a little bit.
Holding back a little bit, yeah. So it's not like he made a massive mistake. He just reined it in a bit. Still good enough for P2, 3/10, almost 4/10 ahead of Max Verstappen. So yeah, McLaren definitely dominant here, as we expected. And then we go to Red Bull.
Yeah, Max said he was, pretty happy with finishing P3.
Yeah, it looked like they weren't all that happy with how their car performed over one lap. They definitely expected Ferrari to be in there, possibly ahead of them. Max said, Helmut Marko predicted we're going to be in a second row. I didn't believe him. So I think they'll take it. One car they will take.
One car, that's correct.
Yeah.
Not to jump ahead there.
We'll get to that. The same with Mercedes, they'll take fourth for George Russell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, George had a few things to say after qualifying. He was, pretty emphatic in thinking that, McLaren are so far ahead that they could almost start working on the 2026 car at this point. But, in terms of P2, he said, it's sort of anyone's game this season. So that'll be interesting to see. But then we had a few surprises behind him with, Yuki and Alex.
Yeah, I guess the two stars of the show, Yuki Tsunoda in the Racing Bulls, or V-Cup, or RB, or whatever you like.
Called?
Yes, and Alex Albon in the Williams. A lot of people have been hyping up Williams, so maybe that's not as surprising, but definitely Yuki. Yeah, he was delighted, absolutely delighted.
Yeah.
They were not expecting this at all. I know they were quick in practice, but they were running on low fuel. They were like, let's stay realistic. So for them to be fifth and then Williams sixth.
And ahead of the Ferraris.
Massive, yeah.
I think that was a big surprise.
Yeah, so you spoke to Lewis Hamilton, Leclerc 7th, Hamilton 8th. What did Lewis have to say about this?
Yeah, I mean, Lewis was, making it clear that he still has lots of learning to do, particularly, if it's wet conditions tomorrow, which is what's been predicted, about 70% chance of showers around midday. He joked that he doesn't even know where the wet switch is on his car. He said there's lots of bits and bobs that he hasn't even explored yet. So yeah, he said that he's been, improving throughout the weekend, session on session, and was really positive. He's finding confidence in the car, but said that, wet conditions tomorrow could, throw a bit of chaos into the mix for him.
Yeah, and I guess we all expected Ferrari to be in there, at least with Red Bull, so it is definitely disappointing. I don't think they really know what happens. It seems like they just lost performance going into Q2 and then Q3, overheating the tires as well. So some stuff to figure out for them. I guess it won't be as much of a problem tomorrow in the race, but still, starting a wet race from 7th and 8th is not very comfortable in the pack.
Yeah, well, he made the point to say that if you're, qualifying in 8th, you ordinarily would want a wet race. But he was saying, I'm almost not ready for that. So I guess, we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, and the visibility will be really bad. So, right, then we go to some of the rookies. As you say, Isack Hadjar, one of the stars, but we also have some rookies that didn't quite live up to expectations, or maybe have some more time, or need some more time. For example, Kimi Antonelli.
That's right.
Not the best qualifying for him.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously, had damage, so it wasn't entirely his fault. But he, came into the media pen afterwards saying that the car did feel good and, he was pretty confident. Obviously sustained damage and did what he could, but there were a few other surprises with the rookies. I mean,
Well, I will say about Antonelli, he was very entertaining to watch. He was really sending it all over the curbs, really aggressive. So, I think the speed is there. He needs to just find his groove a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Oliver Bearman, he's had quite a shocker today, hasn't he?
A shocker. I mean, I guess the one positive is that it's only up from here for Bearman, and he was the first person to admit my performance hasn't been good enough. He is looking forward to tomorrow, but the Haas isn't performing probably as well as they would like. Yeah,
we've seen it with Esteban Ocon as well. Just performance is not there. Definitely the slowest car for one lap. But then for Bearman, 2 crashes or 1 crash or 1 off in a row. Yeah, it's not great, is it?
Yeah, I mean, what did you make of Bortoleto, who was a little bit further up?
Actually, he did impress me. He did get through to Q2. Obviously, there were a lot of comments before from Helmut Marko saying he's like a B-type or B-class driver. I think he answered that. He was ahead of Hülkenberg, and he impressed me because, ahead of Antonelli in the Mercedes, ahead of Lawson in a Red Bull, that we'll get to. But what impressed me the most about him was his attitude. A lot of these rookies are like, I'm a little bit nervous about a race tomorrow for my first race in F1. I'm not too sure about it. And Bortoleto was like, you know what, bring it on. I'm not afraid of it. It's an opportunity for me to move up. And you know what, I can't control the weather, so I might as well just embrace it. And that's a really healthy attitude to have.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we mentioned Lawson, 18th in the Red Bull, when his teammate is 3rd. I don't want to go too early with shades of Checo or anything like that, but
of course. I mean, what a shocking day for Lawson. I mean, I think his nerves must be, sky high right now. He came out of qualifying and said, I made some stupid errors. He was very upfront about it. But gosh, I mean, what did you make of his, performance in Q1?
Yeah, I mentioned this yesterday as well when I was watching him trackside in turn 1. He's just always like all over the place almost, and it was kind of the same today. Quite untidy, sloppy here and there, and he just never really seemed to get into a rhythm. So
yeah, I mean, it's easy to forget that I guess he has raced in F1 replacing Daniel Ricciardo over the past 2 seasons, but the whole first half of this season will be new for him. It's his first time racing at Albert Park, so perhaps time to learn. What do we think?
It is the first race of the season, so again, he's having to adjust to a lot of things. Yes, he's got some experience, but it is a difficult seat. However, you can't do this for too many races, so you need to pick it up because then Red Bull will start getting nervous about him again.
Yeah, we know what Red Bull is like. It's a very unenviable position that Lawson is in right now.
So we did mention it is expecting to be a race tomorrow. What do you reckon? Is that something you're excited about?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love Albert Park. It's, one of my favourite tracks as an Australian, but I do think, the wet, having some changeable conditions will be great.
Because it's not the best track for overtaking normally, is it?
It's not. I think, it's definitely benefited from, being the first race and lots of unknowns, but, on the face, it's not the most exciting track. So yeah, I'm looking forward to some rain. Let's throw in another factor.
Exactly, and it's been scorching hot, so I don't mind some cooler weather either. So
absolutely.
All right, so let's see what happens. It could be chaos, it could be mayhem. Who knows? All we know right now is that we've got 2 McLarens on the front row. So let's see what happens tomorrow in the Australian Grand Prix.